Well, welcome to Scott County, Kentucky. We're located in central Kentucky. My name is Michelle Simon. I'm the Scott County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources. We're out here at Bob Hall's farm today. Bob has some of the main commodities in the county, which is beef cattle and a lot of forages. Some other commodities popular in the county are burley tobacco, corn and soybeans. Bob Hall's been a great farmer to work with. I've been here for 4 years and I've done multiple demonstration projects out here with Bob and his wife Bonnie, and they're great people to work with. They're always make a point to educate myself and other people to make everything better in the county. And they're great people to work with to provide educational opportunities. Well, Bob Hall is definitely an asset to the Scott County community as far as farmers go and educators such as myself. I hope you enjoy the tour of his operation and his farm.
Welcome to our farm. We're a family farm. My great-grandfather bought the tract of land in 1868 and added to it until about 1890. He wound up with about 650 acres. Right now it's been divided 3 times, so I'm lucky I've got 110 acres of it. The 110 acres of pasture we have is all set up in rotational grazing. We have orchard grass, alfalfa mixtures, bluegrass, red clover, fescue red clover. We try to graze all the red clover and alfalfa we can because those things feed our grasses and the grass feeds the cattle. We've got 17 fields in 110 acres, 3 water pens. We graze these cattle in 2 groups. The one group that I like the best is when we run 130 to 35 in a group up front. We rotate the large bunch of cattle every 3 days because I feel like it takes about 65 head of cattle to eat an acre of pasture a day. In the back where we have 5 fields, we'll run 65 to 70 steers, and we rotate them every 5 to 7 days depending on the field and the growth rate of the grass. We do not let any grass, if we can help it, go to seed. Our fescue we clip before it goes to seed. If we don't get it grazed, we'll clip it. We'll try to we graze our alfalfa once a month regardless, we get on that. We do not have a bloat problem. We've never had a bloat problem. And I do not move any cattle till after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The only exception is if it's raining very hard or something like that in the morning and they get moved that afternoon, I'll move them in the morning, but it will not be to a clover field. I don't worry about rain moisture. Dew moisture I think is different on bloat. At least my experience has been that way. The cattle get full, but they're not bloated. We've had 0 bloat in the last 7 or 8 years. I like to take these cattle and move them the day that I think we got 1 more day's grazing left in a field. That's the time to open the gate. Some people say take half and leave half. That's about what you're doing. And we think I got 1 more day's grazing in this field. Best thing to do is go open the gate and let them out, and then they'll respond better. We clip the fields after we graze it because my feeling is if they don't eat something the first time, they're not going to eat it a month later when it gets more mature, older, and just tougher. So we just will keep it in low vegetative stage. The only thing I do other than the grass is the day before I move these cattle from one field to the next, I might give them a pound of cubes a piece. And the reason I do that, because that makes me a pretty good cowboy. They want to follow my truck wherever I want to go. I don't have any dogs or any horses, but I got a little pickup that they like to follow, and I can move them across 2 or 3 fields and go wherever I want to go. And I figure that If there's 130 in a bunch, I'll probably give them 3 bags of cubes. Just pile them on the ground and let them go to them. And the 70 bunch, I'll give them 2 bags. But it works great. I mean, I can use that as my moving. I can call these cattle and they'll come to me. Last year, we used some chaparral on a couple of fescue fields that was going to reseed or that it was getting needed to because of weeds. The chaparral worked perfect. It cleaned up the weeds. It kept the fescue in a vegetative state. It did not reduce my grazing time, as some people have said it would reduce the grazing time, and we did not have a seed head where it was sprayed. We did 2 fields and they both worked the same. Both had been treated the same, and it all worked perfect. I'm going to do some more of this next year because the way it worked. It's easy. It's a good way to clean up a field and get it ready to be reseeded with clover. 100 pounds of, or 50 pounds of white clover, intermediate or Ladina, with 450 pounds of, or 400 pounds of certified Kindlin red clover, and we seed 10 pounds per acre. Either late February, no later than the 1st of March. And I try to seed it on a dry enough ground that I can pull a chain hair behind it to work it in the grass, work it down. Last year we didn't get too good a stand. This year we've had a perfect stand. It's worked great this year. As far as I'm concerned, part of the secret to getting no-till alfalfa to working the best is adding 200 pounds of ground limestone per acre in a row with the seed. Agronomist at the university told my son when he was in school, Chuck Daugherty, that was the secret to getting no-till alfalfa to working. We did it, and it worked perfect, because where we ran out of limestone on the first field, we did that with, it was like black and white as far as a stand and no stand. I would not sow 31 fescue today if the seed was given to me, because it's costing me anywhere from a half to 3/4, maybe a pound of gain per day. At $2 a pound for gain, it don't take long to pay for 25 pounds of novel endophyte fescue. I like to get 2.5 pounds a day, minimum of 2, and we have had them get up to 4 without any trouble. I mean, that's the alfalfa and the red clover, and that's what we've been able to do without any problem. We've got an order buyer that buys all of our cattle. His name's Joe Cole. He's been in business all of his life. He buys all of our cattle, and we buy cattle. We have scales here on the farm. We buy cattle with them over the scales here. And we sell with them over the scales here. Joe in the past has bought cattle for us, and at the same time he'll sell cattle for us. If we got a person that's buys our cattle and likes them, he's a pretty good buyer for the next load or 2. And we try to make them all good, responsible, healthy cattle when they get to the other side. When we sell them here, we give a 2% shrink. When we buy them here, we take them as they are when they come off. Because if we go to the yards, either in Lexington or Paris, we'll get a 2% shrink. So we'll give that to the buyer here. We can load trailers or whatever we need to load or unload. We've got a set of pins that scales and everything hooked up to work together. Sometimes we work, talking about buying the cattle, sometimes they come in and the weather's right, we'll probably work them at late in the afternoon or at night while it's cool, so they can go out and bed down, rest, or do whatever they need to do in the lots, rather than have them stand and try to get them back up in a strange place the next day. Joel's has a good demand for good cattle, and he knows where the good ones are to bring in. So he's just been great. I've known him for 40 years, 35, 40 years, and there's no change. I've been very satisfied. And a relationship you build in something like that is worth a whole lot for the person that's you're working together. Well, let's say we start buying in late March to 1st of April, and we'll start selling in the 1st of July at the latest. And we usually sell the first go around a load of cattle in early July, and we'll be sold out by the end of July, and then start back restocking in mid-August. 2 loads usually finishes up in the wintertime or fall, and we have everything finished, ready to go by the middle of December. Since we don't have any hay, I don't have anything to feed them, so I don't want any cattle. And I've been there and I've done that, and it feels like experience has finally caught up with me. But that's kind of the gist of what we do and how we're doing it. I haven't lost a steer in 5 years. The older cattle, the 650-pound cattle, they've been through some hard times. They're not a bunch of bawling calves. That's Miss Mama, and everything's different. These older cattle have are just tougher. They're harder, and they're looking for a better day, and that's what I want to do, is give them that better day they haven't been getting. I don't want real thin cattle. These real thin, really cattle, it takes them 45 days to be where they ought to have been 15 to 30 days ago. They just don't, they got too much to catch up, play too much catch up. And they're never as aggressively equal to the other cattle. They come in with a modern amount of flesh. I mean, in good, as you can see, they got some shape to them. But these that come in are just skeletons. I just don't like them. When we get these calves in, we give them a 5-way Vista vaccine, 7-way blackleg with Haemophilus, and our vet has another vaccine we give. We worm them, give them a tag ID number for our own benefit. We start them on a stress feed that we make that has 1 gram of terramycin per pound, and we try to give them 1% of that body weight per day for about a week. Figure a bag per head. Cattle are we usually get them up, give or take Memorial Day weekend or about that time, put in fly tags, reworm. If we worm early with an Ivermec, we might even worm with an Ivermec injectable and drench at the same time. We'll come back on, like I say, the end of May when we put in fly tags. And this year we used long-range wormer. It worked great. We shipped some cattle a couple of days ago, and I wished about 2 weeks ago I'd given them a wormer mineral, which is made by Safeguard, and it works super good. Well, we implant with either Revelar or Relgrow, and it's definitely done at the first working. We get one or the other, and then when we come back, if we use Relgrow in March and early April, when we come back and work them in late May, we could go with Revelar, and that seems to work the best for us that way. The main lesson I've learned is moving cattle in the morning against moving them at night, in the afternoon late. I mean, I think if people that holler about bloat, or you're concerned with bloat, then just go fishing during the day and wait and move them late in the afternoon, 6, 7, 8 o'clock. I moved cattle last Friday, on a red clover field, was up to their knees, about 6:30. Next morning, everything was fine. They were full, so they weren't overgrazing in the morning. They were still full from the night before. I've learned that. I mean, that's the main thing. And I've learned that the more mineral they eat, the better they're gaining. I've had some cattle that were gaining 4+ pounds a day, and they were probably eating a half to 3/4 pound of mineral a day. But I don't care, let them eat. If they're gonna gain that, they can eat all they want. For the next 5 years, probably a problem that a stocker person like myself is gonna be facing, maybe a supply of calves or young cattle to do the job that we need to get done. I mean, as we've been doing, just because some people are getting out of the cows. So if they stay in the cattle business and don't plow this ground for crops, then that's going to be another demand with a lesser supply. I can see the stocker problem being could be short, and our total beef tonnage that's produced is going to be short because the number of cows we've got. We got the lowest number, since '54? Well, that's a long time and a whole lot of cattle. Even though we're killing cattle bigger, the weights are probably 300 pounds per carcass more than they were in the '50s. In the '50s, you had a 650-pound carcass, and today you'll get a 950-pound carcass. So every time we kill 2 today, we got 3 of what we had in the '50s. I think that's an advantage in one way to maintain the supply if we don't get them too big. And the good part of it is, I think the demand for beef is very strong right now for quality beef, and that's going to be the good side of the stock for the cattle industry.